This episode is brought to you by Freight Farms. Freight Farms manufactures and sells the leading hydroponic container farm, the Greenery S. Built inside a 40-foot shipping container, the Greenery S uses innovative climate control technology paired with an IoT app called Farmhand to enable anyone to grow fresh food anywhere in the world. Visit freightfarms.com/edible activists to learn more.
Full Service Radio is proudly supported and hosted by Simplecast, the easiest way for a podcast creator to publish and distribute audio on the internet. For more information, visit simplecast.com.
Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting live from the lobby of the Line, D.C. On this show, you hear from the voices of dynamic Black people and people of color in the agriculture, food justice, and healing space as they share empowering food narratives and perspectives that stem from the land, all while exemplifying the spirit of activism in their own edible way. Let's get started. Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting on Full Service Radio. So for today's show, I am super excited because I have another amazing guest, Britt Huggins, who hails from the city of brotherly love. Y'all know Philly is in the house. Britt is a gardener, a pollinator advocate, and she's a house plant lover. And she's serious about her houseplants. So I'm so excited to have you, Britt, and to learn more about you. We've been connected on the gram for quite some time, and funny story, but I'm just so glad to have you on Edible Activist. Welcome.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So, Britt, you are you have done a lot, and from a little bit that I know, and that, nature rescued you, which
Yes.
just spoke to my soul when I read that. Nature rescued you. And it has rescued a lot of people. And I just get so excited, as always, just to hear how nature has called people in, how the land has called people in, and has, they've been able to do some just really deep soul searching, or found them in a time where they were broken, found them in a time where they were just in a dark place, and how the earth just really was that healer and still continues to be that healer in our lives, even for myself. And so, but where I want to start is Philly. And it's actually funny because I had a guest maybe 2 shows ago, I want to say, who is actually from Philly as well. So we got a little Philly theme.
I love it. I love it.
But I'm so curious, what was Philly like? And did you have a green thumb at all when you were in Philly? Or was it just like the block? It was it.
Man, okay.
What was it? Tell us.
Okay, so shout out to Philly 215. I love you guys. Philly was definitely the block growing up. Like, I'm from Germantown, definitely from the hood. I won't necessarily say I had a green thumb growing up. I guess luckily for me, I was fortunate enough I did not go to my neighborhood school. Some of the neighborhood schools aren't the best. I went to a neighborhood school. I went to a school that was in I guess, a more prominent community in Philly. And so from there is where I experienced my first round of like nature. We went on walks in the forest and we explored different things and we did science projects. And I like to think that, like, I had experiences I would not have had I went to my neighborhood school. So that was I guess, my first, I guess, my first, I guess, welcoming into like nature. My earliest memories are, going on walks in the park with my schoolmates and, the trees and the smells and being around the elementary school because I was there from K to 8, so 9 years, and so that was my good foundation. But honestly, no, like my green thumb didn't come along until years later when I moved back to North Carolina after college. I was going through some things, and like I said, nature rescued me. But yeah, in Philly, nope, it was the cold hard concrete. Like, it was
And
cheese.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's it. It was cheesesteaks and concrete. That's all we had. That's it.
Listen for the cheesesteaks. Listen for the cheesesteaks.
Baby, they are wonderful. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna save that question for last because I
Okay.
did ask my guest two shows ago. At
Hmm.
this point, y'all, she
Hmm.
told me what was like the best cheesesteak spot in Philly, and so I'm curious. I've heard several of them, but I digress.
Okay.
We'll hold off because I'm curious
Okay.
for all
We'll
my
stick a pin
Philly
in
folks.
that. Yes.
So and so your leap,
Hmm.
into to nature and the earthy environment, was at school pretty much. Did how
Hmm.
about your family at all? Like any roots in any rooted in agriculture work at all, or just no, just straight,
Hmm.
nah, we ain't doing the growing thing. Like
You know what I remember? My grandfather, so my dad's dad. And it's funny how these memories come, I guess, when you're in the place, to heal and you're growing, and these memories come back to you after a while. Because I just remember he had this big giant hydrangea bush in the front of his house, little rural home in Philly. But I remember like it was like one of the old driveway type of backyards, but he had a garden. He had a garden. And it's
mm,
funny because like I said, it wasn't until I, healed and got over some stuff that, these memories started to pop back very vivid. And I was like, oh, Pop had a garden, and it was with regular row homes, every day. I think, he worked as like a nurse or something like that. But he was like super fly. I remember that. But out of all the memories I have of him, he had a garden and a thriving, lush garden in the back
oh my
of the house.
gosh.
And it's funny because literally, I mean, if you ever been to Philly, it's not much space. In our backyards and maybe what, 4 or 5, square feet, if that. And he made the most of it. But yeah, that's probably the only family
Wow.
member that like, my recollection brings up. But yep, my grandfather had a garden.
Wow,
Mhm.
wow. So he was super fly and he had a garden. It
Oh
can't
yeah.
get any better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Too fly.
And, I'm glad I asked that question because to be truthfully honest, and shame on me, I give a lot, everyone hears me like talk about my family, my Southern
Mhm,
roots, and,
mhm,
where we all come from.
mhm.
And obviously my dad, who is very much a part of my lineage, like that man's green thumb. This is awful. My father ever hears this show. I forget, like he growing up, like he worked in a greenhouse. Like that was one of
Wow.
his like summer in Mississippi. And so he reminds us all the time. Well, y'all know I used to take care of plants. And we're like, no, you did used to take care of plants. Like he
Yeah,
literally, yeah. And so I just shame on me for actually, and it just reminded me, with my
yeah.
father who was still here present, that his green thumb was at an early age, and still to this day, like this, he has had plants for
Wow.
years and beautiful, thriving. I mean, I don't. He's haven't he has never had to in years. I don't think had to buy a plant because he's taking care of
Wow.
the same plants, and I just don't give him enough credit. So shout out to the dads.
Go Dad.
Pop
Yes.
pop.
Okay. Yes, Pop Pop. I love it.
I love it so much. So, just pushing forward
Mhm,
to you really just like landing on fertile ground in the
mhm,
agricultural space, right?
mhm.
And like when I had, read a little bit about you, I was just like, it sounds like she literally went from like, zero experience to like, pow. Now I'm pollinator, educator, I'm teaching kids. And I was just like, whoa. And so that's why I had to ask, like, you had to have a little something, underneath on your belt. So anyway, but like earlier, as you had mentioned, as I had mentioned,
Mhm.
nature rescued you, and that really was that pull into this green space, right?
Absolutely. So I honestly like. um, you realize at some point there's more to life than struggle, right?
Mhm.
And once that hits you and you get into that space, it's a beautiful thing, because the universe opens up and it conspires in your favor. And I think once I accepted that and I realized, hey, no, I need to get more out of life than this. Um, Everything kind of just fell into place. I was in a dark place. I was living in North Carolina. I had just moved back recently after having left college to raise my little brother. And I was just figuring out life as an adult by myself in a new space. And in the
Mm.
South at that, as an adult in the South, because I
Wow.
feel like having gone to a HBCU, a lot of times for most, when you're on the campus of HBCU, you're protected in this little bubble in this community and you don't stray too far out of that community because everything you need, resources, mentorship, jobs, everything is within that bubble for you. Especially if you're not allowed to have a car, if you're not native from the area. And so coming back to North Carolina after previously having left was a completely different experience for me. It was raw and it was wide open. And I don't think I was ready for that. And so it just put me into a space mentally I just wasn't prepared for. And honestly, there's a place on the campus of Duke University, Duke Gardens. And I used to just go there, sit, cry, get my feels out, what have you. And I just started studying the plants. I would just walk around for hours, getting my life together, just taking a moment to decompress, to, disengage. And I literally just would like pay attention to the landscape. I just started studying the plants. I was like, oh, it's something to this. And then shortly thereafter, I had bought my first few plants. And I was like, oh, I really like this. Okay, wow, I really feel better. And I kind of just went into it head on. I had connected with a few number of nonprofits, took a beginning gardeners class. My first attempt at gardening, I signed up for 2 garden plots. I was way in over my head. Honey, let me tell you, I don't know what I was doing. And I don't know why
Ambition.
listen, and then nobody stopped me. Like, girl, chill out. Like, no one told me. And I mean, I think about it now. I mean, I guess I've been in this space for what, maybe like 6, 7 years now. I mean, you think about how much progress we've made with agriculture, with blacks in agriculture and people, getting into and being back in the land, becoming a thing now, especially, during the, pandemic. But
Mhm.
back then, I just thought I was just, an anomaly, which I guess I was. So I just connected with any kind of resource I needed and went in full throttle and got all the experience. And then the more and more, I accepted, I guess, my calling and what it is that I wanted to do, the doors kind of just opened up and I just fell into this position, that position, and it just, like I said, the universe conspires in your favor. And that's what happened.
Oh my gosh, this is a whole like soul searching
Absolutely.
soul. What does Oprah do them soul? This is a whole
Ma'am.
soul session, y'all. Because
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, and not to, and I didn't, I have been in some dark places, and not to
Mm-hmm.
downplay the situation at your at all, but
Yeah.
I literally now just want to go to a garden, just cry out everything, because you know what it is. I love that we all have these similar stories and narratives of just how healing this space has been for us,
So healing.
especially us as Black people, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it is, I was actually in Costa Rica for a getaway vacation,
Okay.
whatever you want to call it. It
Yes,
was beautiful.
vacation.
I was in the jungle. Y'all. It was 3 hours from San Jose. I skipped the city. No, and literally, when I say jungle, I was waking up to like howling monkeys at 4 a.m. Like that was my alarm.
Amazing.
And every day I was just reminded of, nature's symphony,
Mm-hmm.
and just how it was just baked like back into my being and my spirit like every single day.
Wow.
And, and just literally like the first day I got there, Britt, I sat on the porch all day and
Wow.
looked at all the fruit trees, literally the jungle, the tropics, and it rained so hard, and I sat there all day and just let it soak in. And
Wow.
it brought another level of healing that I needed to rejuvenate myself, to restore myself. And
Absolutely.
so it just reminds me again how, it's no, this isn't, when we say this is healing, we're not saying it just to say it, really is.
It
It
really is.
really is. So when you
Absolutely
say,
it is.
yeah, when you say that nature rescued you mean that.
Yeah, and I'm serious. Like, I'm serious. Like, my friends still give me a side eye because I just want to talk about plants and I just want to grow things. And, I see things differently. There's beauty everywhere. And I think with that, um, I guess accepting who I am now and my calling, it just it just made life a little easier, you know? That made
Mhm.
life a little easier, and then I guess that part, and then coupled with, I guess, realizing the power of nature and what nature can do to just heal people overall, especially when
Absolutely.
we're dealing with like food security and people going without, and I
Mm.
think that's what really catapulted me into this realm of growing things. Because when I first started out, I was in an apartment, so I was growing things out of anything you can think of, reusable bags, crates, boxes, anything that could hold some soil I was trying to grow in, because my whole premise was, well, I was thinking about my experience in Philly. We don't have a backyard. We don't have plots of land. But the thing is, nature provides. If you can figure it out and kind of like jerry rig it to get what you need, nature will make a way, you know? And that was my whole premise. I was like, well, we may not have backyards, but someone may have, a reusable bag, or someone may have a coffee tin or something like that. So I guess, that form of, Play-Doh, like, container gardening, but I kind of just went into it. And then I started, educating myself on the facts. I think one thing that really struck home was when I think May Cornell may have published a study, and this is years ago, so I don't even want to know the numbers now because it's so disheartening. But it was something along the lines of, and don't quote me on this, people, don't come for me, but it was something along the lines of over 50 or 60% of all food grown in America is grown for animals,
Ooh.
not people. Oh, yeah. So when you get into the hard facts of it, you're like, wait, so this food is grown for animals to feed livestock, and my people don't have the means to afford this money that the food is being fed to them, and it's robbing them of food that can go on their plates. Oh, no, no, no. Something's got to
Mm.
be done.
Mm.
Something's got to be done. Even if you take it a step further, like I think it was a fact when, because I was in Raleigh at the time, I think out of the total amount of land that could be used to grow food, so we're including all types of green space, like lawns, any type of like
Yeah.
viable
Yeah.
surface. I
Mhm.
think it was only like maybe 3%.
Mm. Yeah.
3%. And it's
Mm.
like, whoo, man, what can I
Mhm.
do? What can I
Mhm.
do? And like I said, once I really got into it, it kind of just, it was opportunity after opportunity, and yeah, yeah, I
Wow.
just,
Well, let me pause you. Can we go
hmm
back to uh the two plots and the ambition? Because I'm really curious what that looked like for you. Because Britt was like, I ain't getting one plot, I'm getting two plots.
Oh my goodness, because I'm a hot
Please
mess.
take
Oh
a
my
moment
God.
to paint that experience, all right? And this ain't to make fun because,
No.
a lot of folks, I mean, even when I started growing, I was like, "What?" Like,
Yeah,
I wasn't as
no.
ambitious as you, but, we always talk about, like, the pretty side to growing. It's an ugly
Yeah,
side.
there is
Shoot.
an ugly side. I will say that surprisingly, I was like very successful at it. It
Ooh,
was really good. Yeah, no, I grew everything. And it's funny because I'm going back on my Instagram now to kind of refresh my memory of what I grew. But I grew everything from, I mean, basil, snap peas, yellow tomatoes, Hilda beans, beets, cilantro, jalapeno peppers, bell peppers, purple basil. Oh my goodness, like all types of stuff. I mean,
okay.
towards
Ooh,
the end of the season, the weeding was a lot. But like I said, when I fell into it, I fell hard. So I didn't mind. Literally, I would go to the garden, take my shoes off so I can be grounded with the earth and just get to work. I
yes.
would get to work. I would put my phone in my pocket, play some tunes. And since it was a community garden, we would have like different people just coming in, taking care of their plots. And I don't know if this is the politically correct term to use it, but there was a housing development or the projects across the street, and literally, like, the parents would yell out, we would go to the corner, cross the kids across the street, and they would just be out there with us, you
Yes.
know? And
Yeah.
so I would just have the kids teaching them, like, oh, this is a watermelon, this is how you grow it, or this is how you do this, And so I think I was just so in love with what I was doing that the work was not even an issue for me ever.
Mm.
Because not only did I have the two garden plots, like I got in close with the people who were running the garden. Shout out to Candace Street Learning Garden. Whoop whoop. Um, I got in good with them, and so when they would have volunteers come, if it was too much, I would walk the volunteers through what was needed in the garden. I really like threw myself in there. Was learning how to compost, learning how to do this, like learning how to put certain amendments in the soil and stuff too. And it kind of just it felt like home. It
Wow.
never felt like work, it felt like home. So yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Mm.
Not
Well,
at
let's talk
all.
about these the 13 pollinator gardens.
Oh, okay.
Can we talk about that? Because that was a position that you
Absolutely.
held, if not or previously, because you pollinator advocate, all
Yeah.
about the bees. Love
Okay.
bees.
So when I started, when I guess when I accepted the role that the universe is pinning out for me, um, I was working at Whole Foods for a long while or whatever, and so doing different volunteer opportunities with them. And then I was like, you know what? I need something more. Like this isn't it. I need something more. And so I was working part time there, but I got into AmeriCorps, so I can kind of get my foot into like nonprofit work. And so my second position with Public Allies, um, it's a leadership development program through AmeriCorps. Was with they put you at placement. They put you at local nonprofits to build capacity for them. And so I was placed at Keep Durham Beautiful, which is under kind of like the city of Durham. And the job was a pollinator garden coordinator. And it was so funny because I remember during my interview they asked me what a pollinator was. And ma'am, I'm not gonna have you laughing, but I will not tell you what I answered. Okay? It was like they were like, "What's a pollinator?" And listen, we're not gonna talk about it.
I'm waiting.
Listen,
I'm waiting. We want
I
to
said,
know. We want to
y'all,
know.
y'all, don't come for me, okay? Please don't come for me. But like I said something along the lines of, it's kind of like the birds and the bees. It's kind of like they get happy and they do their thing, and boom, we got fruit. What's up, ma'am? And literally, like I got this table full of other folks looking at me, shocked, but they're cracking up, and I'm sitting there cheesing like it was right, right? Like I mean, that's pretty. He's like, well, I've never heard it described that way, but yes, I said exactly. See, that's what's up. Like,
I
and
mean, I'm not mad at that, Brett. Listen,
girl, I
I'm
got
not
the
with you
job.
in
Hey now,
non-judgmental space. I'm not mad.
listen, shoot your shot, okay? Y'all hear me? Shoot your shot because I got the job, and that was how I did it. But
No.
the position itself, so pretty much it was a grant. It was a grant through Burt's Bees to develop pollinator spaces because, I mean, as we all know, the more pollinators you bring in, the more food gets pollinated, the more food yield you have, right?
Mhm.
And so they had a few gardens already established before I had took on the role, and my job was to establish more. And we gave the gardens everything they needed, like I mean, down to mulch, soil, seeds. Like I would go to a nursery in like the hills of North Carolina, and I would go and get pollinator plants specific for whether or not they had like drier soil or more wetter soil. And we like sat I sat down and with these like community the people in these communities and really like built this program. Like um we had what was it? So we had we developed the 13 gardens, and my whole premise when I was doing it was, we had a lot of different applicants because, a lot of people say, oh, it's free garden, we need the pollinators, we have this community garden plot. But my thing was, I want to make sure that my people are being seen and heard in this space as well,
Mhm.
because I
Yep.
remember, like, for example, some people wanted a garden downtown. Well, why are we putting it downtown where people can afford to go to the farmer's market and to buy the food and to do all this? Let's really get it in the areas that need it the most, and by the
Mhm.
time, we were finished, it was spread all over Durham, but it was wonderful. We had 13 gardens. They were thriving. Um, and we put them at local places that already had established garden and that had an established nonprofit that can like fiscally like take care of the garden each year, so it wouldn't be going to waste if we just forked all this these supplies over. But it turned out amazing. Later on, my job was to plan a tour of all the gardens. So at the end of my term of service, we did Durham's first pollinator garden tour. And
Ooh.
so yeah, so we had everyone come out. We had sponsors. We had a bike route mapped out, and so we had people take it by bike too to be more environmentally conscious of our
Mhm.
emissions and things like that too. And I think they've continued it because they also not only did we establish the 13 pollinator gardens, we convinced the city of Durham to get beehives on city property. And so
Whoa.
as a part of that, we built up one of the pollinator gardens is at the city of Durham as well, and I think they continue this each year. For me, just kind of being a fly on the wall and still, being in the realm of things that go on there. But it turned out beautifully. I mean, we had gardens at elementary schools. We had them. One particular place we placed a garden that was just beautiful to me. Um, the name is going to evade me, and forgive me, you guys, because I love you. But there's this nonprofit where able-bodied individuals live with those with exceptional needs. They live together and like co-living. So you may like, for example, they may need help, cooking their meal or, like just turning on the light switch. So they live together. And so what they did was they took the money and not only did they build the garden and make it accessible, they like took it and built like window boxes. That way people who were like, physically disabled could go out their windows and garden outside of their windows and wouldn't have to
Oh
physically
my
come down. Oh, it was
goodness.
beautiful. It was so
Wow.
beautiful. And yeah, we did that. I went to a training in Asheville. It was put on by Bee City USA, and we got certified as a pollinator advocate. So when I say a pollinator advocate, I'm really serious about it. Like that's my jam. Like
Certified. Bloop.
yes, yes, that's my jam. But I mean, honestly, I don't think would have been afforded the opportunity had I not just taken a chance. And shout out to, Keep Durham Beautiful and my employees who like, saw something in me and really took a chance, and honestly for having someone of color in that space because there was no one. And it was times where I had to really like remind people that, look, I fought for the seat at the table. It's mine. I'm here. Now you got to respect me
Ooh.
because
Hello.
that was a thing too. It was a lot of times it was like someone would say something, I'd say something and it would be overlooked, and someone else would say something the exact same thing, and it would be like, okay, so no, what's the difference? So, I mean, honestly, that was a big lesson in and of itself of knowing who you are and whose you are. Britt, like you
Mhm.
didn't get here just by chance. You got here because you are worthy of it. Now act like it.
Message. Message. On that
So
note, y'all, we're gonna take a really quick break. You're listening to Perfect Day, produced by Artists Authentic. For more of Authentic's work, visit allornothingstudios.com. All right, peace, y'all. Welcome back. Been here chatting with Britt, pollinator advocate, certified. All right, certified. Okay, grower, gardener, and just you know how we do. We tap into those roots. We learned about her a little bit about her grandfather, Pop Pop. Do we call him Pop Pop, Britt?
pop pop, yes.
Pop Pop, who was a grower. She's from Philly, and just giving us some really great context on how she got into the agricultural space and how nature rescued her, and being that voice also at the table, as a Black woman in this space, and really being charged to be in this space, be confident in this space, like you had the green thumb, you have the experience, you have the know-how, and you landed in this, and she landed in this space for a reason. And so If y'all missed the first half, press that rewind button, go back to the very, very beginning because we're pressing on. We are pressing on. Britt, I want to talk just a little bit about seed keeping because I know it's something that is near and dear to your heart, and and I know that you've been working on some other things, and we don't really talk too much about seed keeping, and so really, I just want to, just dive in briefly about like why the importance of seed keeping to you and just what tips you have for other folks who may not be doing it and who may want to get into seed keeping or organizing or how you organize your seeds. Because I know it's a whole thing. People be serious about their seeds as they should.
Yes. Okay. So a few years ago, first I'll speak on organization. A few years ago, Target, we all love Target. I mean, I'm not promoting them. I'm just saying I love them. That's it.
They can
Um,
support the show if they're listening.
okay, I'm saying support y'all. So they had this like, you know how you go into the one spot. So you go into Target and they got the little like spot in the beginning, like in the entrance where they have like all like the things like $5 and under.
And you think you need all of it? Yeah,
All of it because I was
absolutely.
there today, and honey,
Hmm.
cart full. Okay. So they had this little this tin, and it was a seed organizer tin. So I've had that for years and it's wonderful. It had like a garden planner, like square foot like planner, like I mean it had little like packet organizers. So I've had that. So I use that tin specifically. Um I break mine down by like I break mine down by like families, like legumes, like this, that, like
Hmm.
pepper, so like I'm specific about that, but I'm not too anal about like, it has to be there, it has to be that. Cause I know people who have binders and index and it's
Hmm.
temperature controlled and all that stuff. And do your thing. I love it. Like I love it. I just yeah, I just kind of keep like, a little mild organization and it works for me. But honestly, saving seeds is very, very important. It's funny that you say that because when I was transitioning out of Keep Durham Beautiful, one of the programs that we had come up with, we were partnered with the local library in Durham because a lot of people don't know, and this is FYI in case folks out there are unaware. Some local libraries also sorry, I'm from Philly. Libraries, please forgive me. Um, my accent. Oh my goodness.
You
Some
good. Billy's in the building.
okay. Oh my goodness. Some libraries actually have seed libraries. You can, and people think, oh, am I going to go and borrow seeds? But no, you can actually check out a packet of seeds, use what you need to use, and then return that.
I never knew that.
Absolutely. And then the whole premise is because you think about it. I mean, if you get a packet of seeds, it may be like what 50 seeds in there, and we all
Hmm.
know you only need about 3 or 4. You don't need that many, y'all. Like you don't need it. And so yeah. So a lot of them have like they have tool lending libraries or they have like a seed bank or a seed sharing bank. So you check out your local libraries if you're like in need of seeds. And you take a few of them, you grow your harvest. Once the harvest is done, you let it bulk, you go and you collect the seeds, you give some back to libraries, spread the love. But honestly, like keeping seeds and sharing seeds is very, very important. You always want to make sure you let one crop or one, like if you're growing some tomatoes, if you're growing, some peppers, let one of them at least collect what you're going to collect, do what you do with it, but let it bulk and then collect those seeds because it's so important. Especially with all the heinous things that are going into the food that we eat, the
Yeah,
medical issues and the problems that we have. And we see, I mean, think about it now. I mean, these poor children come out and they're allergic to air. They are allergic to everything.
real
And you got to
talk.
think about it. It was not like this a few years. It wasn't like this in the 90s. It was not like this a few years ago. What is going on? And it's environmental factors as well. And people don't consider that type of thing. Even with the seeds that, some people like to use the seeds from the grocery store. I wouldn't necessarily trust that. I mean, to each his own. If it works for you, that's fine. Only
Hmm.
because it's sight unseen. You don't know what they've used on their crops. You don't know if that crop has been sprayed, if it's been genetically modified, none of that stuff. So if you do get, your hands on some organic seeds or some heirloom seeds and you get a good yield, I save those seeds for next year and then share the wealth and keep it going. But having a seed bank and like having a seed bank and really saving and for the next generation, I think is very, very important.
Wow. Britt up in here dropping jewels, y'all. Okay, so
Oh.
I got like a homework. So I'm starting like a little mental homework list. So I will be headed to Mississippi very soon. And
Mhm.
so when I go see my grandmother, I'm actually because I'm really, I'm really connected with my family. So my
Mhm.
grandmother still grows. I'm gonna go in her
Wow.
backyard or whatever she's planting. I'm gonna pull a seed from whatever she got. Whatever she got.
Yes,
Okay, what you got? And I want to start
absolutely.
seeing those seeds, you
Yes.
know?
A good a easy like method,
Mm.
and I took this from someone else online. I take no credit.
And please
Um
tell me what to do because I'm just gonna go back there like, where the
oh,
seeds
no,
at? Where
no, no,
they
no,
at?
no.
Where
Oh my
they
goodness.
at?
Once I guess that particular crop bulks, that's signaling the end of life. So what it's doing is it's putting out seeds that way it can regenerate for the next generation to go. But you collect those seeds and then we plant it and then we do just in fact we do that just that we grow the next generation and it continues on. So one thing you could do is y'all know back in the day we used to have those little like sachets of potpourri, those little like shiny little sacks.
Child, yes. Oh my
So
gosh.
yes, so listen, they sell like a 50 pack of those on Amazon and it's really, really small. And since they have the pull on them, what you do is just put the bag over top of the bloom, pull it closed, let the seeds fall, boom, you collected your seeds.
Oh, okay. Okay. Y'all taking note. I'm taking note. I'm taking note. Okay. All right.
Yeah, easy.
Educator, not just
Easy
a pollinator
peasy.
educator, advocate, educator.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that. I
Of
appreciate
course.
that.
Of
Yes.
course.
Britt, who inspires you in this space or who continues to inspire you in this
Okay.
space?
I am continually inspired by, honestly, those who are taking a chance at growing their own food, honestly. Like,
Mhm.
it's, I mean, there's so many stigmas behind, I guess, black people, playing in dirt or being in dirt, based on like our history and our culture. And, because of our past, especially in the South, a lot of people just don't want to get dirty. A lot of people just don't want to do it. And I mean, I hate that something like the pandemic really kind of catapulted everyone into
Yeah.
self-sufficiency and honestly aspiring towards food sovereignty. But here we are. I mean, if it needed to take something like that, then I'm grateful for it because so many people are realizing the benefit and the dire need to have healthy food, And so those who are taking that first step and really trying and starting like how I started and just kind of scared to do it, but are doing it, those are the ones who inspire me because I was that person.
Wow.
I was that person. And think about it, even a few years ago, you think 5 or 6 years ago, it wasn't as big as a thing as it is now, And
Yeah.
so I mean, we've grown by leaps and bounds of those who are really pushing to, change change the narrative, you
Yeah.
know? And so those are the ones who inspire me. Like I'm in so many Facebook groups, Black Girl Grow and Black Girls with Gardens. I have my own Facebook group with like for house plants and stuff like that too. And it just inspires me, for those purchasing their first house plant or those, trying to, grow herbs because they're scared to do something a little bit bigger. But honestly, those taking the first steps, those who are teaching their kids, getting their kids a love for gardening and stuff too. Those who have been gardening for years and are still doing it. Honestly, the
Mhm.
people, for me, it's the people, it's the love and it's the people. And so, I mean, the people inspire me. They keep me going, they keep me grounded.
So it's really just breaking past that fear,
Hmm.
right? And just such is life, so many fears, but just doing it,
Just doing
and
it.
just not being afraid. And it's okay if you're
Yes,
afraid
but do it
to
scared.
do it scared. Do it scared.
Do it
Fake
scared.
it till you make it. Yeah,
That
y'all, I'm growing.
Do it. Listen, if you got to scatter some seeds and water it, do what you got to do, but do it.
Do what you gotta do. Yeah, and I think also too because the way that, you know, gardening and growing has been spotlighted outside of, not even outside, in this white space, right? For a
Hmm.
long time of this very curated, polished, just way I that those are just my personal in the moment thoughts right now.
Hmm.
There's this idea for some who aren't, in addition to a host of other reasons, that it needs to look a certain way.
Hmm.
Your garden has to look this way in the front, the lawn, or you have to have this type of space. But I also just think what media has painted,
Hmm.
and not including us in growers, gardeners, which is one of the reasons why I have this platform, and amplifying what we do. And we've always been doing this. And when
Absolutely.
I say we, my greats, my great greats, my ancestors, forefathers, like, so I just have to point that out too, because, in there with this, especially with this whole resurgence, if you will, of, you know, urban growers and farmers, and like fisting, collards, and it just looks so perfect and so curated. And
Hmm.
it's just like, no,
Mm-mm.
that's not what it looks like.
Mm-mm.
And anyone trying to enter that space who thinks that, they're just looking at that image. No. And I'm so, like you, just inspired by folks who are just starting, or at least trying, but also those who are educating
Yeah,
online, like,
absolutely.
all, like, every just showing like the nitty gritty, like, part, just everything. I'm just amazed. I'm so
Absolutely.
amazed by it. And folks just really being so gentle with those who are stepping into this space, like,
Yes.
first time. Like, I
And
really appreciate that.
absolutely. And it's something that really like hit home for me when I was starting out. Because I would do a lot of like programs with the local community gardeners, and these are people who've been, gardening for 10, 15, 20 years. But someone told me like, Britt, if you only been gardening 10 years, right? And you only do it seasonally here or there, you've only done that 10 times. By no means does 10 times make you an expert.
Ooh.
15 times doesn't make you an expert. You could be going for 15 years. That still doesn't make you an expert. There's so much to learn. We are ever evolving. We're
Mhm.
ever growing. We are constantly picking up things. Things change. The environment change. People change. I mean, just look at, I guess, our weather now, with global warming, stuff like
Yeah.
that too, and how the seasons are now as opposed to how I guess, what we were used to from, growing up, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Things are changing, so you have to have grace for yourself and be easy. It's okay. You'll get there.
Absolutely. Well,
That's
I
it.
definitely have to wrap up in a few moments, but it does prompt me to ask, have you had any interest in purchasing land, or if you own land, do you own land? And if not, do you have any interest of, being a landowner, or having land of your own?
Yes. And so that's my next thing I've been working on too. I
Ooh,
definitely want to eventually get land. I
yes.
do.
Yes.
At some point, I want a community garden space to teach people sustainable ways to feed themselves and to fight insecurity. Honestly, to just teach them ways to just, I guess, to equip them with ways to sustain themselves, but to
Mhm.
honestly to take into account the environment as well, because that's a big thing. We only have one. We only got this one, and the rate that we're going is not looking too good.
She's not
And
happy with us at
yeah,
all.
oh no, not at all, not at all. So yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. So I definitely am interested in purchasing land. Where, I don't know. If anyone has any tips or knows anything, please let me know. But yeah, yeah, I
And
definitely,
that's
I
okay.
definitely
The
want to
first step
purchase
is that,
land.
you want to purchase land, and then the rest will open up from there.
Abs- Absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely,
Cool. Well, Britt, it has been a pleasure. You aren't off
absolutely.
the hook just yet, though, but it is a pleasure to speak with you.
It
Uh,
has, Melissa.
but
It
you
has.
gotta let people know how to contact you, which is actually a funny story, but you gotta put it out there. You gotta put it out there.
Y'all, so my Instagram is at edible activist. Don't come for me because I didn't send for you, okay? Don't do it. But like, I've had it for some years now. I've had it for 5 or 6 years. But that's how me and Melissa connected. My Instagram is at edible activist. And if you need any advice for like houseplants or anything, you can find me at So Good Greenery. Like you're sowing good into the ground, SOW, good and greenery. Yes.
Funny story, and we'll talk offline about that too, Britt.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
But you
I
know
knew it was
what?
gonna.
It's all love because I'm
Yes,
not out here, we're all in this together. So,
absolutely.
and that's the way we connected. That's the way we connected. And I'm happy that I was able to get you onto the show. I'm so excited
Yes,
about your transition, your next
yes.
steps. I'm so excited about all of it. So thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your voice. And again, I say you're not
Absolutely.
off the hook because I got a few rapid questions for you before we peace out. You ready?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. All right, Britt. What is your favorite veggie or fruit?
Pineapple.
Oh, she was ready. Oh, I love
Hmm.
pineapple. Y'all had some really great pineapple in Costa Rica, but anyway, I ain't gonna
Oh
tease.
man. Oh my goodness.
All right.
Peas.
Flavor profile: sweet, spicy, sour, salty, savory, or bitter?
Can I choose two?
Go for it.
Sour and savory.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Last artist, song, or podcast you listen to?
Edible Activist Podcast.
Oh, hello. All right
Hey.
now. All right.
Woo woo.
And let's see. You already kind of answered this earlier, but I'll give
Mhm.
you we can have a second answer. So who are you rooting for these days?
Everybody black. No, just
All right, because I definitely took that from Issa Rae.
hey Issa, shout out whoop whoop, but
Shout
no.
out Issa, love her.
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I'm rooting for everybody in this realm who is just doing the doers. And I mean, it just takes one step. Even if you just do something, one thing a day, then I'm rooting for you, because it's a lot of things that we're dealing with as far as, traumas and just existing and adulting and like just doing life. It's not the easiest thing. So the fact that people are just doing things and the creators and the growers, I mean, just continue to do your thing because I'm rooting for you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a pleasure and peace. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch today's episode on fullserviceradio.org as well as iTunes and Spotify. Be sure to follow Food Talks in Color, that's just the letter N, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for all updates. Are you an edible activist? Sure you are. Come join me on the show. Just shoot me a DM on the gram or connect with me at foodtalksincolor.com. And if you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, let's connect. Peace and blessings. And remember, in the words of Baba Tariq Adunu, there is no culture without agriculture.